because of that, so we can regroup. Okay. We just need 30 seconds.
Yeah. There we go. We'll have to remember that next time we do, then we don't have to worry about Outlook, which is the problem.
How about the red one? What do you think that says?
Mind over matter.
Mind over matter.
Yes. How about that gray one?
Oof.
Nature.
This one gets me.
Triple D. Triple.
I know.
West Indies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
West.
Indies.
What about the brown one?
Lemonade.
Lemonade. Brown, the blue one?
Well, I'm in between jobs.
I'm in between jobs.
I'm in between. Wow.
What's the purple one?
Board.
Yes. How about the green one?
Long underwear.
Long underwear. What about the yellow one?
Long underwear. The top dog.
The top dog or the underdog?
Oh, it's underdog, yeah, because Z is underdog.
Okay, so back to this one again. What is this blue one again?
Just between you and me.
That's between you and me. What does it have to do with listening and communicating? What do you think?
Establishing a relationship.
Okay. What else?
I went, wait, the words are not always there, but you assume something. Just
Okay.
because I'm looking at it more as like as the functionality of what you're showing us. Is that picture is like there's other words that are there, and we're assuming that they're there.
Sometimes we assume something is there that isn't there. Yeah. Anything else you can think of? What does this have to do with listening?
Is it reading between the lines?
Reading between the lines.
Read between the lines a lot. And sometimes once we find that answer or we hear the answer, because we have finally heard it in whatever way it's been communicated to us or we've heard it, we can't unhear it. Once we get that solution or get that answer, you can't unhear it. And I think that's such a critical part of specifically relationship sales. Once that guest communicates what it is that they really need, it's so clear what it is that they need. And we play these games sometimes for 30 minutes or 2 calls, or 3 calls, 4 calls, where we're spending so much time trying to figure out what it is that this guest really is looking for in their ultimate experience. Whereas if we could just ask the right questions and understand what it is that this guest is trying to communicate, we can't unhear their ultimate experience. So today we get to open our ears and think a little bit about how we're being present to a conversation, think about how we're setting the right foundation for that type of communication to occur. And we set ourselves up really well for that last week. So today it's all about when our guests speak, how we listen generously. So we have a lot of stuff to do and not a lot of time to do it. I'm committed to a hard stop at noon. We definitely accomplished a lot last week, and I'm sure you have been chewing on quite a bit since then. And you also have quite a bit of material in front of you now. And I was delighted at how much you had asked for. Yolanda and I were talking about it and talking about just the amount of dialogue last week. And as you know, we probably could have gone on and on. But with that in mind, I want to make sure that we keep things all really nice and tight for you this week. So today, warm up. I want to give you an opportunity to take a look at the materials that we've shared with you and give you an opportunity to talk about some of the things in there that might be perhaps the qualifying questions that you were looking for, or the verbiage that you were looking for, or what does this mean, and what could I do with this, Erica? So I want to give you some time, at least 10 or 15 minutes for that discussion right off the bat. So either if it's in the field guide or in the Salesforce process, let's make some time for that first. Secondly, then go back to the communication style strategies and let's leverage those a little bit more. I want to go into those 4 different conversations. We want to listen to the conversation with Mr. Richard Raymond, Ms. Lori McCautry, Ms. Amy Hildebrand, and Ms. Brandy Taylor. Let's see if we can pick up on those communication styles. And then if we had to do it all over again, what we might do differently. And then I asked you to think about some relationship breakers that you're currently using. I think I messed up some pages, but I'm going to give you those relationship breakers today. And that'll be part of your work going into next week. And I had asked you to read some articles, and hopefully you had an opportunity to read those articles. We won't be talking about that today, just in the interest of time, but hopefully those at least gave you maybe some more food for thought. And if that gets into conversation today, then we will. I want to give you some generous listening techniques that make you more flexible, influential, and likable. And focus on those relationship breaking phrases you should never say, and get you starting to think about strategic qualifying. You'll see some of that creeping into your Salesforce process that we gave you last week to look at. But there is a strategy associated with how you qualify that goes beyond what are your dates and how many in your party. So I want to get you thinking about what that strategy really is and why and how. So let's start first.
Erica, just to touch base real quickly on those articles, because everybody did read them, and it's something that we shared with Robin and Gardner as well. And just, it's something in terms of foresight, seeing at how much of those things as a company, the company has their pulse on when it comes to those trends, and something that we can all think about. What are some of those key things, like just whether it's the food experiences and creating a food map or something like that. We have tools like that now, but how can we set up those tools? So those were definitely appreciated. So I know we're not going to go over those, but it was good to have them.
I like it. Good. Are you thinking of some ways perhaps that those could be brought into the sales process, or at least start weaving in some of that conversation into the sales process?
Yeah, and just how to finesse some of the tools that we do have. Because right now we do have a food guide, but just how to make that tool look a little bit more presentable or just a little more eye-catching.
I like
Just
it.
our personal centers alone kind of plays into that.
So it was good.
Good. Oh, I'm thrilled to hear that. Good. Thank you very much. Yolanda did a lot of work trying to find some things that she thought would be really relevant for all of you. So I'm glad that those made the mark. Good. All right, so share with us a little bit about perhaps, let me see, what screen is showing for you? The guide. Let's go into this first. Let's talk about any comments, thoughts, questions that you had as they pertain to the Salesforce development field guide. Was there anything in here that you wanted to make some time to talk about?
Green and blue communicators. I don't understand them. I don't understand how to identify them.
All the communication styles.
We'll make more time for
We're going to put this on the spot today.
Okay. Helpful. What else?
I would say outside of the guide with the vacation, with the other tool that you gave us, I thought that this was great. The vacation Salesforce process.
Yes.
I think that
Yeah,
was a tool that we could probably spend some really good time on as well. But in terms of the book, in all honesty, I thought you were going to take us through a little bit more of this, so I think we were probably holding off on reviewing this in detail. So that's probably why you're not getting very many questions.
And I think we also, or at least I wanted to know a little bit more about the commitments to close, the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, I want to honor the fact that you all have different experience levels, and we also have a short amount of time together in these short 2-hour webinars. I know that there is a ton of stuff in here. There's also a ton of stuff that we have planned in these webinars. I want to go through every single bit of this with you. I also, though, want to say that, hey, what is most interesting to all of you? What is probably the most valuable to all of you? So if there was something in particular here in the field guide that you said, hey, I really want to make sure that we spend a lot of time on page, I don't know, 16, I'm making something up. Now's the time to tell me. But if you want to tell me, can we skip over this piece? Then tell me that now, so that I'm not blowing a lot of time later on something that you don't really feel is of value. I think we learned a lot about you all last week, to know that you're all, performing at a very high level already. So I don't want to disrespect that.
All right, so it sounds like we want to go over a little bit more than some of that communication style.
Okay.
And a little bit more about this. I like the page of when styles are in excess. I think that's probably where we're getting a little bit more hung up, probably, right?
Yeah.
So, and with whether it's internally talking to each other or whether it's talking to a guest. So.
Okay, so let's focus on that today. Does that sound like a good plan, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So I know that one of the things that was asked for after last week was, hey, can you give us some qualifying questions? I heard that pretty loud and clear. True, Amy?
Yep, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to.
I think your vacation sales process hit a lot of that really nicely.
Right. So I want to make some time, at least in the last 20, 30 minutes, to talk about that today. But you'll see they're highlighted in quite a few places here. And so I just want to pull those out of these documents. So that's the other thing I want to make a good amount of time for today.
I would agree. I'd rather spend a lot more time on that. Let's touch the communicator style, since we went over it in a lot of detail last week. Let's maybe get over the hump. Yeah. We're all maybe dealing with some of the struggles.
Yeah.
So it sounds like green might be some of the ones that we want to spend a little. How do we talk to a green and how do we talk to a blue?
Yes.
A little less direct on the blue, and on a green, what do we need to do quickly in order to connect?
And I'd like too on a red how to communicate with them, because because they're the ones more likely to say, all right, I have these dates, I want these many bedrooms, boom, 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 and we kind of bypass those qualifying questions and some of the more experience, what are you looking for, and we go straight to the, how many bedrooms, boom, 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 which is not really where we want to go first, but they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So I think I have a plan for all of you, and I want you to just pipe up and stop me and say, if you're not feeling like this is what you need. But I think I know where we're going to go. So let me back up and just remind you that the whole intention behind understanding how you communicate and how somebody else communicates is so that you're building that strong base. Without the strong base, you never kind of get out of this whole cloud of trepidation that a guest is going to have in the process. And in a luxury sale, if you don't get out of that and create that level of comfort, it's very easy for a guest to go, you know what? This is just easier for me to just look on VRBO. I don't want to deal with this. So understanding your communication style and their communication style allows you to get through that so that cloud goes away quickly. So I want you to get these commitments fast. And understanding communication styles allows you to be able to gain those levels of commitment. So the word qualifying is a very large word in and of itself. And we think of those, what are your dates? How many in your party? Tell me a little bit about this vacation, but it's other things as well. Tell me how much time you have. Can I suggest a few options for you? I do understand that you have a few people that you have to connect with about this option. So how soon are you hoping to make this decision? These are also qualifying questions in a way. So we have to understand the distinction here between qualifying and closing, or at least understanding that they're different types of qualifying questions. And so I want you to think differently about qualifying in and of itself. It's not just what do you want? It's what's the commitment? And it's helping somebody to make a decision. So last week we talked about how sales is doing something for and with someone and not to someone. So I want us just to be really clear on that right off the bat, because if you don't get that understanding of, first of all, qualifying and closing are very tightly connected, and that sales is something that you do for and with somebody and not to somebody, it almost starts to fall apart. So just kind of keep that right there. Now let's then move forward. We spent a fair amount of...
Eric, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So do you also want to know who they are as a person in those? Would that be the third? You mentioned two things. I forgot what they were now. But wouldn't you, in the beginning, wouldn't you also want to know who they are as a person?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that's part of the getting commitments from them. I need to know who they are for sure. So yeah, I mean, qualifying to me is knowing who they are as a person. Qualifying is to help them make a decision. If I don't know who they are, I can't help them make a decision. So yeah, you're right. Is that what?
Just a question. Yeah. I'm trying to learn.
All right. So when I know that I'm a red communicator and I know that somebody else is a blue communicator, I have to be really sensitive to how we honor that dance with each other, right? How we can both communicate the way somebody else would prefer and not the way that our own styles necessarily would prefer. Did we do this last week? Did we do the debrief of who would suggest a party be thrown? Okay.
Yellow. Yes.
That's the answer.
And who would suggest that the invitations go out on time? Do you remember?
Green or red?
Green.
Green.
Green. And Craig, why green?
Details. They're very detail oriented. They're very task driven, and they are very functional as well.
Okay. Yeah. Who would make sure everyone who should have been invited to the party was invited because they don't want anybody to feel left out? Right. Who's going to give the budget and monitor what is being spent?
Red.
Yes. Who will ensure that all the details are taken care of?
Green.
Right. Who's the entertainer at the party?
Yellow.
Yes. Who's going to make sure that everyone at the party is happy?
Blue.
Oh, right. Yellow doesn't care if you're happy.
But don't they make us all happy? Like, that's...
Yeah.
I'm happy, you're all happy?
Yeah.
Well, yellow, that's part of their job, is being a yellow person. Yeah. They're happy.
I'm
sensitive to
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
We don't really care, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful and you just live it.
Just keep it going.
And who's leading the party first? Yeah, red.
Red.
So we remember this from last week. We went through this, I think, a bit, and we got, I think, a bit familiar with who's who and who's where. And Craig, did you ever figure out where you ended up?
No.
So yellow.
I would say yellow.
You've got some green though.
Yeah.
Like, no, he does not have.
Everything here.
He is yellow red.
Yellow
red.
He's a chameleon.
Okay.
Woody does have blue too, because I've seen honeybees.
Well, we don't have every color, it's such a
Yeah.
Not detail-oriented, task-driven,
Oh.
no.
If I just had to guess right now, I probably would say that you're yellow because you didn't bother to redo it.
Yeah. Like, we all said that.
That's pretty funny. Problem solved.
No follow through, yep. There we go.
But I feel like you're really like elaborate and like.
Yeah, I think you're definitely yellow. Yeah.
He does. When you speak on the phone, you mention the details of the residence.
Sometimes I have to stop him from telling me the entire story. Like I just get to the point. Yeah. Like what's the
Yellow and green.
Craig, you could belong on all of them.
So, Erica, and then you had mentioned last week, at a work environment versus your personal life.
Yeah.
When does it fluctuate based on the hat that you're wearing, or are you always have like higher yellow tendencies with red tendencies or something like that? So, is there based on your environment you're wearing, it could be a different style of communication?
I definitely think that there are leans depending, and I have seen communication styles change depending on job changes as well. And when somebody becomes a parent, suddenly their communication style changes. Or if somebody then, I've seen communication styles change because of a landmark birthday, or communication styles change because, and so those are the elements where I say, for me, again, as a hospitality professional, I don't care. I don't care about what's going on. It's what am I working with in the now for the now, because the history doesn't matter to me. I need a bucket to put you in now so that I can be really fluid in this conversation now. I need a set of tools that's going to work for me so that you and I can have the most effective quality of communication in the moment. But yeah, I have seen quite a few changes. Now, some people, if you're very high in a particular communication style, sometimes you are what you are. So Lisa might not be very inclined to change her
I don't
communication.
think they're going blue anytime soon.
Where's your blue?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I think you're part blue. You have some blue in you.
Well, and the reality is everybody has elements of all of these communication styles. So nobody is a straight 100 in anything. But I mean, as I look here, I would say that who would be one of the higher ones? Kate, you're rather high as a yellow communicator. And Jenny, you're a very high red communicator. So I could see that there could be a potential for a clash of communication styles in those with people that are particularly high in certain styles. So what happens when your style goes into what I call excess? That's on 7. I think I touched this briefly last week. When your style goes into excess, a couple of things are happening. And this is true for your guests as well. What did we say last week? What's happening when your style is in excess?
It's hard to overcome that. I mean, you can't get, like you said, you get stuck in your red and Yolanda has to pull you out. Like, you can't see past your traits, or you can't get over them.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be able to communicate.
You'd have to
Someone
step
who's
back.
not a red.
And how do you get there? What got you into excess? Stress of some sort. So what stresses you out at work?
You need to respond instead of react.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Learn that.
What are environmental influences that put you into excess maybe?
The phone ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
Well, or like for me as a strong yellow, when there's a lot of deadlines, because I can't commit to deadlines, it stresses me out.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And I'm sure for a green person in our office, detail with so much distraction and, like you said, phones ringing, chaos going on all around you can put you over the edge.
And for me, when people don't get to the point, just move on.
Yeah.
You take too much time of what I consider valuable.
When you've got one guest,
get impatient.
yeah,
Because
yeah. When you've got one guest on the phone, you're like, come on, get to the point. I've got 10 more I have to call back or email back or do something for.
Right. So your style goes into excess when you have stress, when you're overwhelmed, when you had an argument with a coworker about something, when somebody forgot your birthday, when your car broke down, when a guest just yelled at you about something. All of these things could put you into excess. And a guest might go into excess when they've had a stressful travel experience, or when they call you on the phone and you don't have their residence that they have booked with you for the past 5 years. And they're completely annoyed by that. Or they're in excess because their mother is having health issues, or they're in excess because they are having an issue with the airline about their flights. So all of these different things can put a style in excess. So when we know that these are the behaviors, the communication traits that show up when somebody goes into excess, we should know a few things about them. A, this is not normal. This is out of the norm for this communication style. And B, it is something that we all have to be aware of, in the sense that, hey, we can tailor our style to communicate in a way that person maybe would prefer. So if, for example, you have a red communicator that's becoming overwhelming and impatient, what do you think a red communicator might prefer from us? What do you think would pair well with that, or might work well with that?
Being direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, details, the information they're looking for, give them the information they're looking for.
Okay, details, being direct, getting the information they're looking for. What are some, we talked about some strategies for them last week, right? So being direct and assertive yourself. Respect their time, because time is money for them. Present in 20 words or less. They are not as expressive, so they're not expecting you to be as expressive. They want one-on-one, individualized time with you. So invite them to experience that more exclusive, more intimate one-on-one time with you, or exclusivity of your product, or highlight the exclusivity of your product for them. Those are some strategies.
Okay. I see this in it if we have a direct customer on the phone, like one of the examples that you gave us.
Yeah.
The caller was a direct communicator, was a red, and this is where make the decision for them. Mm-hmm. You know, make here is the best property for you out of this. These are the 3 things you just said to me. I heard you. Here's my suggestion.
Yes.
Rather than giving them options or giving them lots of choices.
Yes.
Like, here, I heard you, here's the best thing for you, now let's move to the next one, you know?
Because they're looking for a solution. They're getting maybe hung up, and they're just like, they want somebody to just come in and say, look, don't worry, this is what you need.
Yeah. And not that you can't give them choices, but.
and that's what they want.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like you can, here's your options. I heard you say this, I heard you say this, both of those fit your needs, which one would be better? Yeah.
So can you see how that also applies to a red coworker?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you look at the bottom of page 3, see how they listen to you. They're listening, they're evaluating what's in it for me and what you're saying. So yellow communicators, for those of you that ramble and tell a long story about what you had for breakfast when you're really trying to tell me about the report that you're trying to give me, they're dumping information, dumping almost as fast as it's coming out of your mouth. And I have even had conversations with fellow red communicators that will say things to me like, don't care, doesn't matter, what's next, move on. And you'll look at them, and because my second color is yellow, I'm going, how rude! Like, this matters. I'm trying to explain this to you because this is important. But when they're that red, they almost just go, boom, I'm not hearing you. So it's important to make sure, if you're one that tells long stories, to say to them, this is important for you to know because you're going to need this information, because based on the information that you've shared with me, I think it's important for you to have this. So keep your stories brief. Make sure that they have a point. The point has to be particularly relevant to them as a person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So think of how Robin might respond sometimes, and you'll hear how he processes things with words like I and we and I saw this, and that's why he answers questions sometimes in the way he does, because he's listening for what's in it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's fair.
Okay, blue guests, blue communicators, blue people. Craig, if you're struggling with that blue person, they are the kind of people, how do they listen to you first? They're always the ones that are going to provide support and empathy. So they're listening for how you are going to be providing support and empathy yourself. And if you're not doing that, they do tend to shut down. So that's what I mean here in terms of a strategy about focusing on the relationship with them. So in communicating with someone who is blue, you have to be saying things more than I understand, or that makes sense, or instead it has to sound like, I feel the same way when I go on a vacation, or I just had a similar experience a couple of weeks ago with a friend of mine, and I just remember how frustrating that was. So I can completely relate. That has to be the quality of support and empathy that they're listening for or looking for, or they don't trust you. They are very good at listening for concepts, the broad application of information. So that's why they pair well with yellow communicators. This is where they sometimes lose their ability to communicate with green communicators, because green communicators can get too detail oriented, and they're patient enough though to stick it out, and they will take the time with somebody. So while they're thinking conceptually, a green guest is thinking more nuts and boltsy with them. They're always listening for the feelings behind the facts of something. So if you are speaking too much about nuts and bolts and square footage of things and distance to this, and talking about a shuttle, but you're not talking about the feeling of using that shuttle, they'll create it for you. And that's why you can work well with them almost all the time, because they'll fill in a lot of gaps for you. Don't take that for granted though, because unless they like you as a person, they will get to the point where they just feel in their heads like, this is just too hard. I can't work with this person anymore. And they'll find somebody else.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In an instance like that, if it was a guest and you're trying to get them booked, just so happens, this is Jenny speaking, and I'm on the phone with them and I cannot relate to them, or because you could tell when someone is not, even if I say I'm sharing their feelings or whatever, you could tell if they believe you or not. What's the best way to transfer a guest like this to somebody who could work with them better without them feeling that I'm like, done, kind of thing? Like a nice way to get them over to somebody else who would meet them better.
That's a
Great
good question.
Is that,
And one, the fact that you can identify it, that right there is, I think, probably a big step, right? Yeah, that you can identify that maybe
You have a
you're,
problem.
you have the problem. That your communication, so I just, I applaud that question. So.
Yeah, and I think timing is big. How you do it is going to matter. If it's that you heard one thing and you said, "Oh, well, you need to talk to Lisa. Hold on, let me transfer you." That's not going to
right,
go. But if you heard one thing and you said, "You know what? You just said something that made me think of a very special person that I have the pleasure of working with in this office that I think you are going to absolutely love. How would you feel about connecting with Amy, who is our expert on da 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 da, and give them an opportunity to say yes to that? Then I think that you're going to get a lot of enrollment in that idea.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm trying. All my guests are closing over to Craig and Kate.
But you'll be able to take that guest so that talks in that style. You're going to be able to connect you, because you are a blue. You know exactly how to communicate with them in a very, very effective way. There, like she said, it's a lot about feelings. Facts go into the conversation, but it's like, how is it going to make them feel? What is this home going to do in order to make sure that all of the people coming with them is the right home and it's warm and fuzzy and
Right.
We have a great way of pulling that out.
Well, it's interesting that we've always said that the decision to do our catered chalet service is an emotional
It is.
decision. What if you're a red, and are you going to decide on that catered chalet?
Yes.
Yeah. Quickly, if they're going to already decided, maybe before they call.
Yeah. Quit the chatter. I'm going to do it.
But it's to stop the conversation of, oh my God, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Oh my God, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do? How are we going to get here? Okay, it's done. Somebody else is taking care of it, and this is how it's happening.
That's not a red
You-
light.
you-
You sell it, and you sell it quickly, where with a blue, you're going to sell the experience of how, and
Having that
all the
glass of wine
details,
delivered
how
to
many
you with a hot
exact.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to do this.
So, Erica, when I was saying, green and blue communicators, it wasn't necessarily on how to communicate with them, but it was more identifying in the words that they use to actually identify if they're a blue or a green guest. And maybe maybe you could add this on to the last 20, 30 minutes when we go through the qualifying questions, but maybe like having questions that I would be able to qualify someone more as a certain color, so that makes it easier to right away start appealing to, the task-driven or the emotion or, what they're trying to get.
I like that, yeah. What questions do we ask for the different communicator types, yeah.
The best tool that I could point you to do that would be your Salesforce process. And in showing you the open-ended questions at the top of that Salesforce process will probably be the things. There are a few at the top of that without my clicking around and giving you a grand mal seizure to try to find it. The number one question should be an open-ended question, and it should be something along the lines of, so what is bringing you to Steamboat for your vacation this year? Or tell me a little bit about how you discovered moving mountains and why you're considering Steamboat for your vacation this year. Open, big open, talk to me, goose. Because the bigger it is and the more I invite that conversation, the more I can start hearing how they communicate. A red communicator is going to say, well, I ski. I've been coming for 10 years and I love you guys. Make it happen, right? A blue communicator is going to say, Well, so we started coming to Moving Mountains, and we just love all of you so much. And I every year we send letters, and my daughter just can't say enough wonderful things about you. I always take a vote every year to find out where everyone has been so happy coming every year, and every year they say Moving Mountains, and I just don't have the heart to change. So here we are again, and they're going to say things that are going to tip you off. And so to me, it almost seems like the more you allow them to just be them, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to get exactly what you need from them. So I kind of feel like this is going to be one of the things that the big open-ended question at the beginning is going to open it up for you. A green guest is going to say, "Good afternoon, Craig. This is Erica Cayley, and I'm calling to see what you have available. I'm just at the beginning stages, and I want to gather some information. I've already been online, and I've looked at 3 homes already, arriving on January 7th and departing on the 14th. We have 14 people in our party. I've already looked at these 3 residences, and I have some questions." And you'll know right away that that's a green guest. And you'll have a yellow guest that's like, "Craig, hi, how are you? Oh, it's so nice to talk with you." And this person is going to chat with you, and this is coffee talk time, and they're going to just talk about how awesome their last trip was and their last vacation, and Snoodles the dog, and how great it is that they're going to get to do this vacation again, and this, paint the picture of their last vacation, and you'll know. But if you don't start with an open-ended question and you just shut everybody down with, "What are your dates? How many in your party?" No one's going to talk to you. Does that help?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Make them talk.
So your green guest, I kind of gave you this idea, but let me back up. Your blue guest, you want to ask questions of them. How do you feel about that? Share with me, share with me some feedback. Tell me what's on your mind. How are you feeling about that? I'm really curious to find out if you like this idea or not. So they want to hear feeling words. They want you to ask them how they feel. Now, this person, your green guest, does not care about feelings. This is a thoughtful transaction. They're on a fact-finding mission. They want you to give them correct information. They have gathered information. Chances are their information is more correct than yours. They love to be right. If they're right, I think I told you this last week, allow them the chance to be right. You are absolutely right. I shared with you a little bit about making sure that you are methodical, and this will be the first step is that I will have to ask a few questions so that I can gather the right information and narrow this down for you a little bit more. But make sure that you make it kind of methodical for them. If you sound like you're all over the place, they will disregard you. So asking questions sometimes doesn't work as well as making statements for them as well. Strategies for your yellow guests: stay big picture with them. I'm sorry. I should probably back up to that green communicator on page 5 and tell you how they're listening to you. They're going to listen to make sure that your information is correct. They are listening for the facts behind your feelings. So yellow communicators, blue communicators, if you are too feely in your conversations, they do kind of shut down. And they'll say things like, "Well, wait a minute. So let me understand this. You said it was amazing, but is it a full view or is it a filtered view? I don't understand. So how full is that amazing view?" And they almost get kind of uncomfortable about it, where you're going, "Ugh, okay, calm down." So just be sure that you're clamping down a little bit on the adjectives, on the descriptions for them. They will critique you, and it's okay. They would rather critique an idea than come up with an idea on their own, and that is not a editorial on you. That doesn't mean that you are wrong. That is just how they are. They would rather play with somebody else's idea than come up with their own idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your yellow guests on page 6, they want you to think big picture with them. Like I said, I've heard them secure reservations for $20,000 homes for a week without even knowing the price tag. They're just ready. Yes, that's what I want. Here's my card. Well, don't you want to know how much the deposit was? Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. Uh-huh. Thanks.
Boy, we want yellow.
Yeah. They buy the dream. They love party endorsement. They don't care about details. They love to, well, what about, and tell me more, and what about this? So if you let them go on the website and just act like a free range chicken, you will be looking at every single home on the website. You have to keep them, like keep the blinders on them. So it's important to control the conversation with them. They are not interested in the details, the square footage of things. They want to know. So in the morning, when you wake up and you're enjoying your cup of coffee, you will see the sunrise right outside of the kitchen. So you can relax out on the deck. It's going to be a beautiful place to have your breakfast. That's the picture.
The yellow person gets up for the sunrise, FYI. We were up too late.
Partying. Put it out there.
They want the description of the experience. And you can hear a yellow communicator, a yellow salesperson that can do this well. They are just amazing. So for those of you that have that gift, I am just in awe when I hear it. So go to them for your good talking points, for how to describe a particular home. One of your assignments for today is going to be to break out into teams and come up with some talking points by communication style for how to sell the catered chalet service. So talking points for how to sell the catered chalet package to a red communicator, blue communicator, yellow communicator, green communicator. And if you're stuck, ask your yellow communicators in your group here, hey, how would you sell it to a red communicator when you know that they are direct and assertive? I want you to really think about how it is a different kind of a brain that's thinking about it. They're thinking about, hey, what's in it for me as a red person? Time is money. And what's in it for me to get the catered chalet? What else am I listening for? I'm listening for, hey, I'm listening for not just what's in it for me, but I'm also listening for my time today, but I'm also listening for my time on my vacation. What's in it for me? And I'm also listening for my status, right? How does the catered chalet thing help me to experience something more exclusive or intimate or one-on-one? So when I go home, what do I have to brag about? And how are you going to articulate that in a way that really makes me feel like this is totally worth it? So that'll be an assignment for today, after today. So they listen, each of these styles listens differently. Each of these styles articulates things differently. These strategies show up differently in conversations. Let's listen to a couple of calls and see if you can pick them out. I asked you to listen to a few different ones here. Let's listen first to Richard Raymond, and we're just going to pick a bit of this, not the whole thing, because we don't have
Good for
time.
you.
So,
And you're in Virginia?
are you able to hear at least that snip that I just played?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this is Richard Raymond. Off the top of your head, since you listened to it, what communication style do you think he had?
A little exercise.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Okay, and why do you think that?
Yellow.
Oh, yeah. Yellow.
Why do you think that?
Why? Because he told a lot of, he was sharing his whole life. He was walking his dog, and he was sitting down because he didn't want to get out of rain. I mean, he would get up talking to all day long.
He was my first call ever here, by the way.
Wow.
Well, funny.
Oh.
I feel like I could tell the second he answered the phone.
Replicate something like that. Get out of town, just have a little peace and quiet in the country. Go back and forth to the soccer tournaments if you have any properties that kind of fit that description.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything in the Steamboat Lake area. Everything that we have
It
is
doesn't have
for
it doesn't have
town.
to be Steamboat Lake. I just want if you got something that's not right in the middle of town. Number one, I looked through your webpage. I see you had a lot of places, one Steamboat Place, and having
Yep.
stayed at Christie Club for 20 years, I really don't want to stay at one Steamboat Place. It's too much like the old days.
Right, you're done with the base. You're done with the base area.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, we
you
definitely
can
have
have it.
properties, yeah, that are in the mountain area, up Burgess Creek Road or up Après Ski in that area, but it would still be here in town. Nothing up 131 in terms of a location.
He doesn't know.
What,
he knows.
I didn't quite follow you with all of the streets and things. Are you basically saying all of your properties are within Steamboat Springs proper?
Yes, yep. So
That
all
is-
really on the mountain area.
On the mountain. Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, what were some of the clues for you that he was a yellow communicator?
He's agreeable. He
Uh-huh.
didn't ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
He wanted to be met. But didn't have any.
Did he have good ideas?
Warm, conversational.
He laughed. Outgoing. Yeah, very
Spent
outgoing.
$20,000 and he's laughing about it.
Okay, what else?
He didn't really share specific.
Didn't do any pre-work, so he doesn't come across as the green, so wasn't in the details.
It didn't have details. Wasn't direct, getting to the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, wasn't quick to, hey, I want to book something now. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other.
Yeah.
Yep. Multitasking, walking and talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He has no idea what you're talking about. He's, kind of just going with the flow, idea-wise.
When Amy mentioned like road names and stuff, he was like, whoa, I don't know about road names. Tell me where they are. Like, I don't know what 129 and 131 are. Too many details.
Too many details, right.
Anyway, he was talking about roads. I'm like,
So after you listened to this call, what did you decide? Hey, what could have been some strategies for this yellow communicator? Things you could have done differently?
I think when Amy picked a home, obviously Amy was struggling a little bit because she didn't know what home to pick, but she could have really elaborated on, this home is going to give you some privacy, but you'll have easy access to go see the grandkids because of X, Y, and Z. He needed to see himself in a big picture atmosphere. He did not care what
He
road it
needed
was
the
on.
dream being fulfilled because he did like what you chose. He did it before, but he also knew it because he used to live across the way. But next time he's coming back, he wants something grander,
Right.
but not one single place.
Okay.
So you
So-
did good. Liked where you put him.
They can pair up well even without Amy having to know a whole lot about this just yet, just by how Amy is. I think. So, yeah, I mean, big picture ideas can work very well with a guy like this. And even asking open-ended questions like, all right, so what about something that's not in that area? Because there were a few times, Amy, and this was simply a function of just not knowing the area just yet, but even asking some more questions that create a flow in conversation Like, what about a different area? I know you've talked about this area a little bit, but what about a different area that might still give you some of that access? I know you don't want to be in town, but what about a different area that might be private as well? So he's open to ideas, right? And this is just a conversation for the sake of the example, not with context, knowing that this was your first call ever. But if we right, get this guy all over again, and now we know, oh, he's a yellow communicator. He's open to ideas. He's open to suggestions. So we could definitely have taken him all over the place, and I think he would have been really receptive to that. So knowing that he's a yellow communicator, you have lots of wide open options here for this guy. And he would be one that you could easily probably get him to say yes in the first call. Easily.
Yep. He was a yellow communicator with money. Best caller ever. Oh, yeah.
And I would say that's, I guess you just said a good point, and close him on that call. You know, he doesn't want to keep calling back. He wants to talk to you, and he wants you to pick a house with him, and he wants to get it done. He doesn't want to have to keep calling you back.
He totally does. Totally does. All right. He looks like Lori McCarty.
Lori, I said green.
Yeah, I said her green as well. Yeah, green.
Green.
Lots of details. Green. She had done her research. She knew it was between X and Y, and she had all the facts already.
Okay.
And I would like to know, I was multitasking during this call. It was not one of my highlight calls. So thanks for picking it out, ladies. Totally appreciate it.
Believe it or not, Yolanda didn't dig deep for these. She just kind of, how did you sort these, Yolanda? You went like,
I kind of tried to listen to the communication style in the first couple of sentences to try to get some differences in the callers. So I honestly was not critiquing you guys so much. So just to FYI.
It was pretty bad.
You had better.
Vacation for 2019. And I know I talked to you guys last year, and there's two places I know that I was looking at, that one I stayed last year and one that I was looking at. One is the Chateau Chamonix, and the other is Edgemont. Okay. And I want ski in, ski out. I want to be, on overlooking the slope. I want washer and dryer included. And it looks like, I've looked at other sites at Chateau Chamonix. It looks like you're listing some of the nicer ones, actually. Is that true, or?
Most likely. Those are. I was so doing something else, but it is true.
Okay.
If it was on that tour the day before, you would have been like,
No.
It was the weekend. It was the weekend. I was doing something else.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I guess I'm
what did you just say?
Yeah, she was gone.
How many people were you thinking of coming with
We did close her. Not we, as in me, as in Craig closed her. So once I got my stuff together, Amy and I worked out the details, and Craig closed her. So wasn't my highest moment. Can we move on?
It's not about
We got to get,
so it's about the customer.
we got to
All right,
sale.
let's pull it back. We are identifying the customer. We're not critiquing Jenny.
yeah, it looks like she found a VRBO. Right?
They're not so good either.
So here's what I was listening for, was the amount of detail that she gave early in the conversation was great, right?
Yeah.
So that was the part that I really appreciated early. So I wanted to keep listening for a couple of other things, tips. so that I know what to do with that. So just listen for that part. Kate, it doesn't matter who handled the call. I want to listen for her style, okay? So I'm not listening at you, or I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to her, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you're looking to come for the holidays, or? No, I'm actually trying to avoid the holidays. We've had to come for the holidays so many years when our kids were in college. They're finally out, so I don't have to do that. I was thinking actually trying to even avoid President's Day. So I was looking at maybe 2/9 to 2/16. Yeah.
Okay, let me look at this real fast.
I just want a nice 2-bedroom condo, ski in, ski out. I love Chateau Chamonix because we could walk down and go to dinner. I like the location. And the Edgemont is just up the hill from that. So.
Is nice. Edgemont is going to be a little bit of the nicer. Do you have access to our website right now?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Oh, so let me pull up. So from the February 9th.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
These, you walk right into the locker room and put your pension. Then let you know that. Okay, so if we look at
okay. Do you have any on the first floor?
Either one of these units have AC. We do not.
Right. I know. I don't think any of them have AC actually. Okay, so that was one. Well, I mean, we figured it out. We just left the windows open. It was really how we dealt with it. So 120, and there was a 125 too. So I'm assuming all of those are on the
second floor. And
on the
right
second
now
floor.
It's not showing, and maybe because
They're on the second floor.
How many bedrooms?
When I booked early. And the other one that we looked at last year, we did not book because it was a little pricier, was the Edgemont.
Right.
So green communicator, because you say she's gathering information. She has a few options. She's giving a lot of detail at the beginning of the conversation. She knows what she wants. She wants to make sure that she's right. Is there anything else that tipped you off as communicator?
She's also like economical and price sensitive, you know, kind of worried, wants to make sure she's getting the best price. Value.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
So with that, you know, she was like, okay, so I was last year debating between Chateau Chamonix and Edgemont. We didn't go with Edgemont because of the price, but she went with Chateau Chamonix, and they had to deal with issues by keeping the windows open, you know, dealing with the heat. Okay, so now, and I know Edgemont's going to be about $5,000 more at least to go stay there compared to Chateau Chamonix. So now I need to find my points so that I can upsell her from Chateau Chamonix to Edgemont. What would be your recommendations on what bulletins on this green communicator sheet should I be trying to hit to get her to do that?
Okay. So when you have a green guest that is perhaps in this mode of trying to make a comparison, providing them with a list of pros and cons is is a great closing technique that you can use with them. So this type of close might sound something like this. So let me detail out a few of the things that I like about both of these, and also be pretty transparent with you about the things, you know, the pros and cons of both. That way we can do this fact-finding mission together and weigh both options. That way she feels very well informed, even more well informed, and you are adding value for her. She knows a lot already, but maybe she doesn't.
Words like, you are correct in, you know, agreeing with them that they are right. They already have the facts. Your facts are correct. Let me elaborate on why they're correct.
That's it. Yes. So was she looking at an option that was $5,000 more, or was she interested in the one that was $5,000 less?
Typically between Chateau Chamonix and our Edgemont residences, it's about that price difference.
Yeah.
For having a night stay.
But she already knew that.
She already knew that.
She wanted to justify, in my mind, what she was probably doing. She wanted to go back to Chateau Chamonix, but have it be the right decision. And she wasn't there in the right decision. She couldn't justify moving to Edgemont because probably a couple other reasons. They could make do at Chateau Chamonix by opening up the windows.
Or staying in the other 341 as opposed to the. But in order for maybe this lady, it would work for her. She's still staying in Chateau Chamonix. She's got the details. She knows Chateau Chamonix. She's stayed there before.
Right. We have a
staying in one of our, so staying in one of our residences versus staying at a mountain resort residence. Ours are probably a better quality value. You know, the temperatures are more controlled with the thermostat that deals with the fireplace. Like she would want that detail about the fireplace and how to control it.
So those go into that pros and cons. Is the other thing to consider, Ms. I wrote her name down. The other thing to consider is that when you're securing a reservation with us here at Moving Mountains, you know that you are also getting an unparalleled level of service. And that comes into play with this, and this. Those are also things that you will not find if you rent with another company or even with Vacation Rentals by Owner. So even though that may feel like the more economical choice, in the end, it is not the more economical choice. So you have to anticipate sometimes the things that they perhaps haven't even thought of. So that's going to be another piece of homework for you on page 8, where you're looking at family, couple, thrill seeker, reunions, adventurous. Been there, done that with another company and international. So I want you thinking about how do we get ahead of some of the concerns that your guests already have. If you were the guest, what might you be struggling with right now? If you were a family, what concerns would you have about what this person is offering you? What would compel you to give this staff member time? What would compel you to give a staff member time? What would you need to hear in order to feel like you aren't your time isn't being wasted? And what aren't you currently hearing from other property management companies, TAs, or wholesalers? So you're just going to take that profile of a family or of a couple, of a thrill seeker, of a reunion, an adventurist, someone who's gone with another competitor in the past, and an international guest. Each of you will take one of these different types of guests, and I want you to critically think of answering these questions and these can be generally answered. They don't have to be very specific to a certain family, but I want you thinking about that, because without getting ahead and assuming answers to some of these things, sometimes I can't answer your question completely, Craig. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. All right, so maybe right now, who will be the takers? Who wants to take the family? Volunteer? Who's taking?
You're taking family?
Yeah.
Craig?
Yeah. Yes.
Supposed to do it now.
Okay. Who wants couple?
I'll do the couple.
Who said that?
Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Who's taking the thrill seekers?
Okay, I will. Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa. Who will take a reunion?
I'll do a reunion. Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Who will take the adventurist?
I will. Amy will.
Amy?
Yeah?
Okay, who will take been there, done that with a competitor?
Okay.
Benny? And how about international? Who's left?
Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so what you conclude is what you will share with the rest of the team, and this is an important exercise. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would please, is create your answers in an email form, and this will be emailed to me. I will capture all of these together, and I will capture all of these together, and then we will put these together all for you in a document that you'll have. This will be important for you because you have to know your audience in order to be able to close your audience. Does that make sense? Okay. So that'll be homework piece number 2. And Yolanda is going to put all this together in your recap.
When do you need these?
Next Thursday.
So by next, but to get them to Erica.
I would
What's
like
the deadline?
Yeah, if you could give me these next Tuesday, that gives us time to get this returned back to you before Thursday. Does that?
Okay. By when?
By next
Tuesday.
Please.
The red communicator.
As an example.
Let me put it in my. Let me put a reminder in my phone. No, I'm not doing. No, I'm really not doing that. I'm looking at what the date is next Tuesday. If anyone wants, September 11th.
Are you sure she's not saying?
September 11th, if anyone cares.
That was great.
Just as an example, let's just play for a second. What concerns, Craig, would a family have about what you offer at Moving Mountains? What concerns might a family have about what you offer?
I think the biggest thing for families is going to be convenience and less hassle with the kids with their ski gear.
Right on.
They're able to offer ski valet or storage at least close to the gondolas so that then they can stay away from there. And also, and then on top of that, just trying to make their lives less hassle on organizing the whole trip beforehand, scheduling their lessons, the rentals, everything like that, and then down to the ski valets. I think those are the biggest struggles.
Yeah. So then when I'm selling to a family and then I'm at the point where I'm trying to get some commitments from them, I can say, I'm sure you have started in your process of investigating a lot of options, and it's certainly overwhelming as you're looking. One of the things that a lot of people get concerned with when they look at large homes is, am I going to be able to still have a convenient experience in a home? And you have definitely found the ultimate experience here in Steamboat with us. So I think you've made an excellent choice. You get to collaborate with me now in finding the perfect home, and I'm going to tell you why. You're going to feel so good about this. So you get to kind of go into that. But unless you know how to articulate that and you have that kind of written down, and you know the answers to those questions in advance, sometimes it's hard to get it out of your mouth. So this is going to be such a great tool for all of you once you have that all put together. I think you're going to love it. Okay, so let's change the conversation a little bit. We've alluded to listening a little with these different communication styles. I want to maybe talk about that a little more in a different way. Listening itself, we all have to listen. We won't be on a page just yet. We'll get there though. We all have to listen in our jobs. All of us. And most of us, how many of you think you're good listeners? I'm a good listener. How many do you think you are?
Sometimes.
All right. How many of you have been trained to listen? I have had listening training.
I have a girlfriend.
Be married.
Yeah. And 5 siblings.
You have no choice.
Yeah. So most of us haven't had listening training, And if you've been in the hospitality industry, you've probably had even less, because it's not something we train on, except we expect everyone to be great listeners. Listening itself is generous listening is really what we try to do the most when we're in the world of empathic work, like what we're in here. Empathic work, meaning that we are in the business of creating happiness. We're in the business of generating feelings. That's what we do. So generous listening is listening with a deep appreciation to the reality, feeling, and commitment of another, contributing to the other person that experience of being understood. So what that really means fundamentally, basically, is that our job is to listen to learn and digest aloud. We do that all day long. Sometimes we do a great job of it, and sometimes we don't do a great job of it. So I want to be able to at least give you these 6 little techniques that are going to help you to think about how you can do a better job of listening to learn and digesting aloud the information that you're receiving. This is just a kind of some quick tips, and then I want to give you some of these relationship breakers. And I think that that'll probably be about enough that we can then go into qualifying a bit at the end of our day to day. So listening to learn and digesting aloud is probably the big thing. Generous listening tips, just as a reminder for you, things that we need to make sure that we're doing. You got to be focused and be ready for that call. Restate what you have heard. That's one of the biggest things to know to do when you're generously listening. Responding with empathy. So I'm going to give you these tips. This is something that usually when we do training on listening here, we spend a long time on it. We don't have a lot of time today, but if we want to make more time for it, we certainly can. Listen to what is being said as well as how it is being said. Don't think of what you're going to say while that caller is still talking. And don't focus on the computer more than on the person. So I'm going to give you these little tips here. I don't think we'll have this on a page for you. Let me see if I can. Yeah, actually, I'm going to do a little quiz with you. Just take no paper, close your eyes. Just close your eyes. I'm going to do this a little differently with you. Is everybody's eyes closed?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Ready? I'm Erica Christine Cayley, president of Guest Service Solutions. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, but I've lived in many different places since my days there. I currently live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but with my husband, Michael, my son, Andrew, who's 12, daughter, Brenna, who's 6. At the age of 5, I moved to Pennsylvania for the first time. Then shortly thereafter, I moved to Oahu, Hawaii, back in the 80s. I lived in Kaneohe, Kailua, Nu'uanu, and Honolulu. At the age of 14, I moved to Pennsylvania again, this time remaining in Johnstown for the remainder of my high school career. I attended Penn State upon graduation and earned my Bachelor of Science from the College of Health and Human Development and the School of Hotel, Restaurant, and Recreational Management. Upon college graduation, I began my career at Chart House in Fort Myers in Naples, Florida, when it was an independently owned restaurant chain started in 1967 by 2 surfers. Their first restaurant was in Aspen. In 1997, I moved back to Pennsylvania again to take care of my father, who had leukemia. I began working at the Hotel Hershey that year, first as a restaurant manager and then being promoted to the director of training and development for the entire resort group, earning the property our 4th star from Mobil. In 2000, we moved to Colorado, and I further evolved as a hospitality professional, now taking my skills to dozens of properties in California, Utah, Missouri, Montana, Arizona, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Alaska, Colorado, New Mexico, New York, Michigan, Ohio, Georgia, Virginia, Wyoming. I've been blessed to see so much of this country. Can't wait to say that I'll see all 50 states someday. What is my middle name?
Christine.
How old is my daughter?
6.
Where do I live now?
Pennsylvania.
Where?
No, Pittsburgh.
Okay. How many states have I lived in?
A lot. Almost all.
Yeah.
How many states have I worked in?
A lot.
Oh, a lot.
What did I earn my college degree in?
Bachelor of Science in Health and
Human.
something, and then a hospitality and
From
recreation
Penn State.
from Penn State.
Okay. So I just dumped a ton of information on you at one time, right? I gave you 2 minutes to listen to a ton of stuff and didn't give you a whole lot of time to truly listen. What did I give you an opportunity to do? Just hear. All right. So there's a difference between hearing, listening, and generously listening. And that's the idea of listening to learn and then digesting aloud. So had I given you the opportunity to generously listen, you would have been able to process and probably remember everything that I just shared with you. So the first one here is emotion labeling. So what do you think emotion labeling is? It's
Labeling emotional.
Well, our emotions or your emotions?
Well, try to determine what kind of communicator the person speaking is.
that could be part of it. It could also be if I say to you something like, I have just been on your website for the past 30 minutes and I just thought it was best for me to call somebody. What emotion do I have?
You're overwhelmed or frustrated, so trying to hear that.
Yes. So not just hearing it, but calling it out. So listen to learn and digest aloud. Oh, that is so overwhelming and frustrating sometimes. And I know, especially when everything's so beautiful, it's just hard to pick one. So I'm really thrilled that you called us. Thank you. So emotion labeling often it can be that one thing where it just provides a sigh of relief for somebody. Works well with what communication styles do you think?
Blue?
Mm-hmm.
I think for yellows too.
Yeah.
Or pink. Yellows can make pictures.
Works very well with blues and yellows. So the deal, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you hear an emotion, call it out. Don't be afraid of calling out that emotion. It's a gift that you give to somebody else when you hear it and you say it. So if you hear that somebody's frustrated, you can say, hey, I would be frustrated as well. Or I can see why that was confusing. Considering the fact that you have been staying in that same residence for the past 5 years, I would be disappointed as well. The good news is we have another gorgeous residence that now I get to share with you and we get to try something new. So let's take a look at that and see how you feel about it. So you have this opportunity to do something fun and exciting with that once you can create a clearing because you're both on the same page with that emotion. The second one here is paraphrasing. This is a summary in your own words of what a guest has shared with you or what somebody has communicated to you. So with the guest, for example, that said, we have stayed at Edgemont in the past and we've stayed at Chateau Chamonix just last year. We're trying to plan our vacation for 2019. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want the other thing. How could I provide a summary in my own words of what I've just heard from this woman instead of saying something like, so what are your dates? Or what's your name? Well, how could I summarize in my what I've heard from this person?
Sounds like you've seen a lot of our properties. Can I offer something that sounds like you would want?
Let me help you narrow this down for you.
Great. Keep going. Something else?
I understand you don't like X, Y, and Z. Let's look for something that has these features instead.
Okay. It sounds like you've done a lot of homework already, and it's great when you already know what you want. So I'm delighted to help narrow the search further. And you can also take this as an opportunity to state the end result of the call. Good, because of the fact that you already know what you want and what you don't want, maybe we can even we'll be able to find the perfect place for you today. Maybe that ends up being your end result here today. So paraphrasing is a summary in your own words that shows that person, I heard you. I'm not going to waste your time talking about a bunch of things that you don't care about in this particular case, for example. Mirroring is repeating back exact words and exact phrases that guests have used. So if they're using the term ensuite with you, you use the term ensuite with them. If they're saying scenic view, you say scenic view. If they're saying 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, you say 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. If they say marvelous, you say marvelous. So this is a way that it's almost like a verbal head nod. And it is extremely effective with your guests in showing that you have heard and understood. This is, I think, in your case, over the phone, particularly important because remember this from last week, when we communicate with our guests over the phone, 20% of your likability comes through with your words. 80% of your likability comes through with your tone of voice. So you don't have as much to work with. You don't have those nonverbals. So these generous listening techniques can help you a lot in doing a lot with very little. Effective pauses is another way that we can communicate. So dead air is more than 3 seconds in a conversation that's quiet. 3 seconds or less is an effective pause. Since you have never secured a residence with us with Moving Mountains, let me describe us for you a little bit. First of all, Moving Mountains is the exclusive vacation rental. We're the exclusive luxury vacation rental organization here in Steamboat. So that's my pause, and then I describe what I want to describe. Minimal encouragers. These are short words, phrases that encourage people to continue talking. So give me examples. Short words, phrases, things that encourage people to continue talking.
And yes.
No.
Yes, and.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. What else? We like to say okay. That's one that we tend to overuse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So be sensitive to using the appropriate minimal encouragers. They're great to use. Sometimes they can be overused. And then, of course, open-ended questions. That's the last one. And that really dives into what we maybe classically refer to as qualifying. Now, I said earlier that qualifying and closing are very closely tied. There is a bit of a distinction in qualifying that I wanted to make sure we made time for today, because I want you to understand that there are different versions of questions, right? Qualifying is about finding their vision. And the more we're able to get yeses to qualifying questions, you have to ask questions in the right way that you're getting yeses, which means you need to listen. You need to understand what they're asking, what it is that they're looking for, or ask questions in a way that they can commit to it in some way. So that means you have to be a little savvy. So we ask open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. What's the difference between an open and a closed-ended question? Do you remember? Can you think of it?
Closed is one answer.
Yes or no.
Give me a yes or no answer.
Closed-ended will get you a yes or no answer. So this could be, is this your first time here? Here, let's do this. Let's go to your here comes the grand mal seizure. I'm trying to get out of this so that I can go to your, there we go. Okay, so yes, no answers are your closed-ended questions. What about your open-ended questions? What are those going to be? Open-ended questions are,
What do you plan to do while you're here?
great. What do you plan to do while you're here? How did you hear about us? These are ones that are going to give you larger, bigger descriptions. They're going to help you to get a lot of detail, hopefully. They're going to require more than a yes or no answer. Now, what happens if you don't get the kind of answer that you're looking for? What if a guest answers a open-ended question with a closed-ended answer? What do? Give up?
Find out what kind of personality they are.
Yeah, you'll know a lot pretty quickly. But you can use a technique called framing. And back it up. Framing, you can say, so that I can really get a good feel for the type of residence that will work best for your family. What is bringing you to Steamboat for this vacation? Or, so since you have never reserved with us here at Moving Mountains, tell me a little bit about your family and what turned you on to us. So the framing is the so that, or since you haven't, it's that piece. That's the framing piece. Ask it in a way that gives them a little bit more context for the question. So if you feel like, hey, every time I ask people what's bringing them to Steamboat, they always say skiing, so I'm not going to ask anymore, then frame it. Ask it in a better way so that you get the quality answer that you're looking for. All right, so let's look here. How may I help you? Open or closed-ended question?
It's open.
Totally open. Great. How did you hear about Moving Mountains? Open or closed?
Open.
Totally open. Have you been with us before? Open or closed?
Closed.
Closed. What do you plan to do while you're here?
Open.
Totally open. So there's a lot of open-ended questions happening here at the beginning. These do not have to be as basic as they're written here. You can make these, tailor these to be a little more special if you want them to be. But you get the basic idea. I love this one. So I can make sure I find the perfect option for you. What are some key residence features that are important to you? Open or closed?
Open.
This is a framed open-ended question already, so that I can make sure I find the perfect option for you. That's the frame. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Notice here in the base, there's a lot of qualifying that's happening here. I want to make sure that you're remembering that you still have some rapport building that has to happen in here. So it's not just, let's hit the ground running and start asking questions. You have to make sure that you're still having a conversation with somebody. So let me practice this with somebody. I will be a salesperson, and let's have one of you be my guest. How's that?
Okay.
Sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
Great. Who would like to be my guest?
Sure.
Craig, is that a yes?
Craig.
Okay, I like it. All right. So my goal is going to be to, see if I can get through some of these. And if I miss something, let me know. But what I want to be able to do is just be as thorough in my qualifying as I can. See if I can build a strong base through my qualifying, understanding his communication style, honoring where he is as a communicator. Now, Craig, don't be too crazy on me, okay? Like you can be a guest who's like a normal guest, but don't bring. Let's see. Don't bring a 18-wheeler and your pet parrot. And, that kind of stuff. Got it?
Okay.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Moving Mountains. This is Erica. How may I help you?
Hi, my name's Craig. I'm looking to come out kind of in the late January to come skiing with my family.
Well, that sounds like a good time. Oh, thank you for calling us, Craig. How did you hear of Moving Mountains?
I was browsing online and I ran into One Steamboat Place, and I was directed over to you guys when I called.
All right, that's great. Good. So, Craig, have you been to Steamboat before?
I have a few times, but I have never stayed with Moving Mountains, and I've always seen the One Steamboat Place building, and so I thought I'd actually look it up and see if I could get my family in there.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
The interior looks gorgeous.
Okay, so it sounds to me like maybe you and your family do ski vacations often. Is that true?
Oh yes. We go skiing about 4 times a year. So.
Oh, that's great. What other ski resorts do you typically go to?
Well, we always come to Steamboat at least once a year, sometimes twice. But then I always like to get up north towards Big Sky, and then I always like doing Telluride Crested Butte as well, just for the really bigger mountains.
Wow.
I like it because my family loves the mellow terrain where I am not on that aspect.
I got it. I have been to all 4 of those ski resorts, so I think I have a vibe for what kind of skiing you like to do. So where do you typically stay when you go to Crested Butte or Big Sky? Do you stay at a place like One Steamboat Place, or are you usually in a home? What do you typically?
I definitely like staying closer to the slopes just because with young children, of course, it's easier to get there. But I'm not always necessarily needing the super high quality, but my wife shouldn't ski very much, and so she spends a lot of time there. And really, she likes the other people that stay there as well. She always ends up bringing at least one friend home with her.
Well, I'm glad you're considering us for this upcoming January. It sounds like you're bringing quite a bit of a group. So tell me a little bit about who's coming with you and what they all typically like to do besides skiing.
Yeah. So it's my wife and I, my 3 kids, and we were thinking about bringing my sister along with her family. But oftentimes, my wife likes to get out there a couple days, but really, she's more into the spa aspect and really just getting a feel for the town, and she really likes spending time downtown. So,
right.
I spend most of my time on the slopes.
Of course. Well, then I can truly see why One Steamboat Place is a choice because of its convenience, and it truly is gorgeous. Good. Okay, so this gives me some really great ideas, and as you've been sharing some information with me, I've been looking up a few things, so I think we have some good availability for you. What are you hoping to accomplish in this call? Do you just want to see what's available, or are you hoping to secure a reservation today?
Well, I'm kind of up in the air right now. More just feeling out the water because I like One Steamboat Place, I like the interior, but that the price of the residence is just really high compared to a lot of the other ones that seem just as nice. But there's got to be some reason why the pricing is there.
Oh, it absolutely is. So I will be more than happy to describe One Steamboat Place for you so that you're feeling comfortable with it and you understand why it is what it is. But the good news about securing a residence with us is whether or not you even choose One Steamboat Place, I'll make sure you're very well informed and we can compare it to perhaps some other options. And I can assure you, we will find something that's absolutely amazing for you and your family, and maybe even your sister and their family as well.
Great.
Okay, so cut. That would be probably the level of rapport building that I'd want to start with. At least I want him to be able to say yes to me. I want to feel like he is in this with me, that he's not feeling put off by me. As long as he and I are vibing and he knows that I have his best interests at heart, that I'm trying to at least show him why, or at least set him up to understand why moving mountains is a great choice, and what I'm going to be able, what value I'm going to be able to offer him in this conversation, then we're starting off in the right spot. I don't have to look at availability yet because it doesn't matter yet. I need to build a relationship with him and understand what it is that he wants to accomplish on this phone call. So I've accomplished a few different closes with him already, if you have heard them. So I'll go back to the diagram and maybe you can tell me, what closes have you heard so far, if any? What closes have you heard? Did you hear a commitment to start to explore?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear maybe at least a partial commitment to start to want to change?
Yep.
Okay. Commitment to collaborate with me?
Yep.
Okay. And a commitment to maybe want to give me some time. I want to flesh that one out a little bit more, I think.
Yep.
Okay. So that's, to me, that's a big deal. What else should I have asked him on it, at least at the start? What else was missing at the start here?
Where he'd stayed in Steamboat before.
Right. So I didn't quite get there yet. That would be the only thing that I knew I wasn't quite there yet. I probably didn't want to ask so much about other destinations as I wanted to know about local, but strategically, I want to know, are you married to the idea of coming to Steamboat? Because if you're married to the idea of coming to Steamboat, then great. I know I have you. But if you're wishy-washy and you go to a bunch of resorts all over the place, you may not even be a steamboater. So it just depends. Obviously, you have to always honor the dance with your guests. So as long as you're looking at it from more of a macro view, you'll end up getting there. So good. What else didn't I ask?
Why I was attached to one Steamboat place, to see if you could collaborate a little bit more.
Well, I thought what I got from what you were telling me was that you thought it was beautiful and your wife really wanted to be close to the spa. So I got it from you. You volunteered it to me, but what you're saying is I didn't ask you.
And you didn't really collaborate on, oh yeah, one Steamboat place does have the best spa environment, or, you know, to sort of make that connection of, you're right, you've pointed out some things, let me take that information and point you even further in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I have a question about that.
Well, hold on now. I want to back you all up because I want you thinking about the fact that we're still in the qualifying phase. So I want you to focus on the fact that you've got to gather information before you know what to do with it. And this tends to be a thing that sometimes we forget as salespeople. We want to give information before we get enough information to work with it. So yeah, you're right. I need to get that information. I need to know enough about him so I can give the right information to the right guest at the right time. So unless I know more about him, sometimes I can get too ahead of myself. So make sure you get all the right information first. Strategically, ask your qualifying questions first before you start creating the value. And that goes back to this page 2 of your book. If I don't build a strong base, and if I don't feel like this guy trusts me yet, I could be doing this stuff all day long. He's not going to care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now please, your question.
I'm sorry to have interrupted. My question is in regards to the whole qualifying and what they were bringing up. Do I want to connect with him or more about his wife? Because I heard you go back and say something to him about the spa, but what I didn't hear is anything mirroring anything he said about skiing. And since he's the one calling in, I'm assuming he's the one who's going to be using his credit card.
Oh,
Do you want to connect more with what his wife wants or what he wants, and then sort of background his wife? I mean, include her, but focus more on him since he's the one who actually made the call. Like, where do you draw that line?
Well, keep in mind the piece that I just demonstrated for you.
I interrupted too soon. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. The piece I demonstrated for you is only like the first fourth of a call. So I am still, look where I am. I'm still way down here. And I am intentionally spending time on this bottom part with all of you because I hear way too often that we don't even get this far. We go, thank you for calling Moving Mountains. How can I help you? And then you bomb the rest of the call and then you wonder why. I'm not saying that like to you. I'm just saying as a sales force, as the universe of people that sell, we started off poorly and then we bomb the rest of it because we don't focus on building a strong base. So if I don't spend time talking with all of you about building a strong base because you're qualifying well and because you're communicating well and honoring that dance and building trust, then the other stuff doesn't matter. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to talk with this guy about skiing. I want to talk with this guy about what his wife wants to do and communicating about the spa and access to all of the things that makes the location of One Steamboat Place so awesome. So yeah, we're going to get there when I get up into this. I have to do this right first. Does that make sense?
Completely understand.
So I think the big, maybe this is a big aha for a lot of you is, whoa, I really need to slow it down and back it up and control the conversation a little more, because I'm sure you have a lot of guests who are like, I just want the rate.
Right.
This is not an I just want the rate kind of a product. That doesn't mean that you don't talk about the rate, but this is not an I just want the rate kind of a product. When it's just not. And so you have to get to the point where you're able to talk about the value of the product, and you need to set up the conversation so that you can discuss the value of the product. So unless I'm building a relationship with Craig and he trusts me, we're never going to get there. He wants to know why it's so awesome. Okay, well, I'm investing in you right now. And that's step one of showing you why it's so awesome. So
this is definitely not a topic for today, but I'm wondering if in the next couple of weeks, if you have some pointers on, I'm struggling with so much of our interaction seems to they're even cutting out the phone. We're doing live chat and email. Like, I feel really comfortable in my ability to talk as a young but it's really hard to pull that information in electronic conversation. So again, don't have to address it today, but I'm just wondering if you have some strategies on that for the future, because I can talk all day, but if I can't get them on the phone, how do I get this information from them?
Yeah, I think the biggest tip I could probably give you is to always have that live chat be pointing to a conversation. Mm-hmm. So if they're saying, does this house have, here, I'm just going to put a picture up so that we have a point of conversation. Does this house have a swimming pool? This house does not have a swimming pool, but I have 5 homes over the time period you're looking for that do have swimming pools. Would you like to schedule a phone call and I can share those with you, or would you prefer that I email those to you? Can you email me links to those, please? Absolutely. So at least I'm trying to get a conversation with that person. Maybe this is another situation where they're looking at this home, and can you give me another example of where live chats go, how live chat conversations go?
I mean, they just tend to be very short, and even when you try to draw out, you know, those leading questions and stuff, they tend to respond with very minimal, and it seems like if they're on a live chat, you can never get them to call or get their phone number. They seem to be one-way communicators. You know, like either they're at an office job and all they can do is type, you know what I mean? That there's something going on probably in the background.
Yes.
That prevents them from picking up the phone or being able to talk.
Yep.
Would the next step be to try to get them to email then? You know,
Yeah,
so it's like
yeah.
the next step, okay, get them off chat and at least
Right.
email, because then you can get more information on email and then maybe onto a phone call. You can probably get a little bit more information on email.
I would think so, definitely. I mean, some questions are just short, but I definitely think that if someone is interested, try and field that.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways where you can find out how interested are you. It is the 12 o'clock time. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I want to be sensitive to time. I guess I would just say try and figure out whether or not this is somebody who is somebody who's qualified or someone who's just an inquiry. But with all of them, maybe just have sort of like a pat sentence that says, I would love to have a conversation with you if you're truly interested in this. Do keep in mind these residences secure quickly. The best way to secure a residence quickly is by calling me personally. Please call me at da-da-da-da-da. Create some urgency in a chat. You might increase your chances of getting a phone call.
Right. Good.
Okay, we covered a lot today. Was that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
It was my pleasure. You have a little bit of homework. I know Yolanda's going to communicate that to you in our follow-up. So to prepare for next week, I'm going to ask you to just review your Salesforce process a little bit more. Highlight the qualifying questions you can find. Maybe if you have questions about them, let me know. We can talk about those next week. Prepare your talking points on page 8. See that we talked about an example a little bit. Craig, thank you for being the example for that. We're also I'm going to ask you, we'll add to that 3 bullets by communication style. So talking points or benefit statements for how to sell the, how to sell the catered chalet service to each different kind of communication style. So I'm going to ask you to come up with 3 bullets for each of those different communication styles. And then listen generously to your guests. So think of what is their communication style. I'm going to send to you in an email 10 relationship breakers. So since we didn't have time to talk about them today, they'll come as email. And just remember to be present in your conversations. I think that's going to definitely increase your chances of hearing more, listening to more and hearing less. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.